There was a lot of self-doubt in the beginning. It's very looked down upon where I come from to be like a photographer or a painter. You're not going to be an artist. You're going to be a fuck up. That's what you're going to be. From the very beginning of me picking up that iPhone 4 and going out on the streets and taking photos, there was a lot of self-doubt. I didn't think it was going to turn into a career. I just knew it was helping me with my depression. That's basically where I started.
From a young age, Cole Younger didn't have a very optimistic worldview. He struggled with using and selling drugs, being locked behind bars, and coping with depression. Picking up a camera was his way out. Now Cole Younger is a Los Angeles-based photographer that shares just stunning photos with his audience of more than 280,000 Instagram followers. I was just blown away by Cole's story. In our conversation, we talk about the arbitrary rules that photographers often place on themselves. We also talk about how he won the money for his first camera in a Las Vegas gas station. That's not a joke. And the silver linings of his dark past. In this story, it's one of a man who rewrote his future, got off the streets, and found his calling. A couple housekeeping items here before we get to this week's episode. I'm starting to take questions on the podcast. The most common emails that I get are from creatives that are struggling and are looking for advice about their specific problems. These questions are detailed and specific, and I think answering them on air is really going to add a lot of value to you listeners. So whether you're a filmmaker or an artist, or you're somebody struggling to develop a healthy habit, here's what you can do. Record a video on your phone asking your question and send it to hello@mattdiavella.com. You can get as detailed about your story as you'd like to give the proper context, but I just ask that you keep these to under 2 minutes. I'll then pick the question that I think my guest that week will be uniquely able to help me answer. So again, that's hello@mattdiavella.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Have you gotten some value out of the Ground Up Show? If so, there's one thing that I'd love for you to do. Head over to iTunes and leave me a quick rating. It takes 15, 20 seconds, but it really helps to promote the visibility of the show and ensures that more people can hear these amazing stories. So, if you want to help keep this podcast 100% advertisement free, do me a favor, leave a review. With all that said, what do you say we get to the podcast? This is Cole Younger. You're listening to The Ground Up Show, a podcast that inspires creatives to make meaningful content and pursue their passions. My name's Matt Diavella, and I'm a filmmaker best known for the Netflix documentary Minimalism. And I'm sitting down with creators to talk about their process, the lessons they've learned, and how to make an impact. Cole, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you here. Big fan of your work. Moving to LA, I feel like looking at your Instagram and checking out your photos, it gives me a pretty good feel of what LA is like. Because most of your work is based here in LA, right? You do some traveling, but a lot of it's predominantly here. Yeah,
I love LA. I mean, it's where I grew up, and I like to show it that way for what it is, the bad and the good.
The thing that I love about your work is I feel like a lot of times with creative work, the artist will try to over-explain what they're trying to get across. Yeah. And I'm a victim of that as well, where I make these teasers and videos, and I'm like a lot of times it just, you let it speak for itself. You put it out there, maybe have a little caption just to give a little bit of a teaser or a little bit of explanation for what it is. Yeah. But that's what I admire about your work too, where it's like you kind of let the work speak for itself.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I get a lot of comments or direct messages about that, and they're like, oh, a caption could make it that much more powerful. And I tell them the same thing every time. Some of my favorite photographers have said, just let the work speak for itself. Let the viewer come up with their own story for the photo. And that's what I do. That's what I try to do a lot. Unless something compels me to write like this crazy caption, I don't do it very often.
Was it always like that? Were you always light on the caption?
The way I started out was I was out on the streets with my iPhone 4. I didn't have a camera from the beginning. Started with the iPhone, and I would go. I'm a product of the streets. my parents weren't really around when I was a kid. And so I spent a lot of time on the streets. I met a lot of people on the streets. I still have a lot of friends from when I was younger that are on the streets still. A lot of them have passed away. A lot of them are in jail. But when I first started, I wanted to tell their stories, the people that I knew. And I basically would go out, excuse me, take a photo of them and hear their story and kind of write it on Instagram. And I feel like that's what kind of got my name out there initially. And over the years kind of just like evolved into just letting the photo tell the story for the people, like let them come up with their own story, what we just spoke about. But I used to write paragraphs on some photos of those photos, the people. Every Monday I would go out, or every Monday I would post on Instagram these stories and kind of let people read them. And I don't know, it's something I feel like I want to get back into, but I just haven't yet. Because there's a lot of hate on those too. It's like, oh, you're taking advantage of these people. This is for your own gain. But if they really go and like look at the comments and likes on it, it's way less than what I usually get. So, and also I feel it's important to tell those stories because they're not really told on an everyday basis. And I was on the streets, I was homeless. So I kind of get where they're coming from. So yeah.
You kind of think about the perception of how somebody's going to take this.
Right.
Like, what's the worst way that they can construe this and twist this and make it look and guess what my intentions are.
Right.
But at the end of the day, man, that's like impossible. You can't control people's perception of your intentions.
Yeah.
You only have to go with your gut and like if there's a story that you want to tell, push it out there. And I think as you start to develop an audience, they understand who you are. And it's like each story builds on itself. And obviously I think part of that is getting personal with it. And I don't know if you get very personal with like how you're posting online. I don't know, that might help. I feel like it's such a complicated and difficult. These stories are complicated and difficult to tell. And you want to make sure that you're giving them due justice.
Right.
And also that you're not taking advantage of the people, like you said, that you're photographing.
Yeah, and I mean, online, I don't want people to think of me that way. Like I'm taking advantage of people, and it's like I have a following now, and some people do understand what I'm trying to do with it, and a lot of people don't. And I just don't want to be perceived that way by anybody because I don't try to take advantage of anyone. You know, like I said, I was on the streets. I know how it feels. It's a very lonely place, and when you're homeless, nobody wants to even look at you, especially in LA. Like I've been other places where people take care of homeless, like Canada. It's like homeless you're one of their own. It doesn't matter if you're homeless. People will buy you something to eat all the time. Like you'll never go hungry in Canada. And here you see the guys digging through trashes and like stealing food and going to jail for stealing food because they're hungry because no one will give them money, or other cases they'll spend it on drugs, of course. But
I literally just had one of my first experiences of helping out with a homeless shelter over my birthday. I just turned 30 a couple of days ago, and my girlfriend.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, man. Like she gave me like the greatest present because we've always been talking about like we want to help out and we want to contribute.
Yeah.
And then so she found a place for us to help out delivering food to the homeless. Like it was the day after my birthday.
Yeah.
And that was really my first experience. And the thing that opened my eyes about the whole thing was that these are people that have their own quirks, their own idiosyncrasies. Like some are incredibly polite and gentle and calm. Some are a little bit angry. Some obviously have some problems in their lives.
Issues, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm like, shit, that's no different than my friends and my family and the people that I know.
Yeah.
So it made it very real to me. And I think we try to disconnect. And even me living in New York for 5 years, you just get used to walking past homeless people and not acknowledging them or ignoring them or saying, sorry, not today. Like, I'm sorry, I can't give you money today, this, that. it becomes very challenging when you are faced with it every day.
Of course, and I see that part, and a lot of the reason for me putting that stuff out on Instagram when I first started, and I still kind of do put it out, but not with the stories, was because of that reason. Is just kind of like raise awareness that these are people too, and that's like 80% of it, and the other 20% was just wanting to tell their stories because they'll never be told. Really.
That's honestly the best motivation to get into it, because it's not like you were looking for any external outcome. You know, a lot of people might get into a specific field for the money,
right?
But it seems like that wasn't what got you into it.
Yeah, I mean, people are like, "Oh, you're selling their prints and making money," and it's like, if you ever hit me up, I've never sold a print. I just won't. I just don't sell prints. And I've sold a print, actually, of this guy Steven, and it was for a charity, and I gave it right into them. Mm-hmm. So I gave it to this homeless charity. I make money doing what I love, and I just haven't got to the point where I want to even sell prints. But if it's for a charity, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's something that I want to get more and more into, finding creative ways to support and help communities that are lacking in funding.
Yeah.
Is there a specific charity that you like to help or contribute to?
I mean, there's a few downtown places I stayed when I was homeless when I could get in there early enough. Was Midnight Mission, Weingart Center. Those are both great. Eventually, my end goal for this thing is, or my goal is to have a place like that where I can teach kids photography, like homeless kids or less fortunate kids photography, and do that. Mm-hmm. That's my goal. That's my goal. I would love to have a center in LA to do that.
It must be kind of a trip to think back and look back over like where you've come from to where you are now.
Yeah.
How do you view success? And when you were not at the place you currently are at, did you have an idea of what success looked like for you, or a life that you wanted to live?
I had no idea. I mean, the way that I grew up, it was doing illegal things for your own gain, for monetary gain. And that's what I learned from my parents. My mother was gone from a very young age. She was in and out of my life. She was a drug addict. The very first thing I had to do in life was kick heroin. I was a heroin baby. And my dad was a part of a motorcycle group that weren't very nice. So my upbringing, the only constant person that ever instilled in me any good was my grandma, who had just passed away a couple months ago. And yeah, I mean, that's just the way I grew up. It was drugs everywhere in my house. I'm trying to go to sleep at like 7, 8 years old, going into my room and people having sex on my bed. Like my house was the party house. And, so that's kind of like how I grew up. So what was the question again? I just kind of like went on this tangent.
Yeah, it was coming from that place. I guess, did you even think about the future and a life that you wanted to live?
Honestly, from a very young age, I didn't think I was going to make it to 16. That's just kind of how I grew up. And so no, I didn't know. And getting into photography, I went through a whole bunch of stuff. I went to jail. I followed in my dad's footsteps. I went to jail for more than a few times, and did my own thing on the streets. I did drugs for a really long time. I got into selling, and this very last time that I got arrested, I went into this rehab facility, and the judge he gave me a choice. I was going to do a really long time in prison or go to this rehab facility for 2 years and try to better my life. And I was once again trying to play the system. I was like, okay, I'm going to go into this rehab facility and then continue to do what I do. And about 4 months in there, I started to change. This guy that I knew from the streets that was even crazier than I was, I kind of grew up around him with my dad. He came in there and he started to change. I was like, maybe I can do this too. And that's what I started to do. I started to change, and then fast forward, I went back to school. I got a degree, my MFT, and I went and started doing therapy for kids, counseling kids with drug problems at a few facilities, boys' homes, privately owned centers, and got depressed about getting paid for doing this stuff, which happens to some people, and fell into photography. I was very depressed for a little while. Instagram came out. I found this guy from Detroit that I really liked his stuff. And it's history from there.
I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's just finding those mentors and people that you can look up to.
Yeah.
And when we can see that other people have done it and paved the way before us,
Right.
it makes it feel more possible that we can do it ourselves. So
Yeah.
from saying that the first person when you were starting to turn things around or at the very beginning kind of helped you to realize that this was even possible.
Yeah, there was a lot of self-doubt in the beginning, especially where I grow up from. Artists, like, you're not going to be an artist. You're going to be a fuck up. That's what you're going to be. And it's very looked down upon where I come from to be like a photographer or a painter, or they just talked a lot of shit about it. And from the very beginning of me picking up that iPhone 4 and going out on the streets and taking photos, there was a lot of self-doubt. I didn't think it was going to turn into a career. I just knew it was helping me with my depression. And that's basically where I started. It's just something to help me with how I was feeling, because no one else could help me.
And you were actually using your iPhone. It wasn't like, while I'm here, I'll take a photo. This was a camera, and you were going out and you were shooting LA.
Yeah, that was my camera.
Yeah,
for sure, for sure. And looking back on it now, I haven't taken any of the photos down off of Instagram. Like I like to see the progression, and sometimes I'll go back and look, and it's just like, wow, I can't believe I actually put that out there. But I keep it up there.
Dude, that's so important.
Yeah.
There's such an urge and a desire, even for me, to take down some of my old stuff.
Yeah.
And like, dude, I had some stuff when I was in college where it was just the corniest videos, just cheesy, over the top. But at that point, I thought I was being really like creative and artsy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And you just over filter the shit out of it.
Yeah.
You just destroy the image.
Yeah.
But it's, you're growing and you're exploring, and you're definitely like pulling inspiration from other people more so than you are creating your own art at that time.
Definitely.
How did that progression go? Like, and why did you keep going? Like, you truly enjoyed it?
I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it was helping me with my depression. A lot of the reason that I kept going and I really appreciate it is some of the people that followed me early on gave me a lot of one, inspiration, and two, they would say, wow, that's cool. And I'm like, looking back on it now, I'm like, you were lying to me for sure. But thank you. Thank you, because it kept me going some days.
But I think sometimes it's also like, that's cool or that's great for you at this point. I think that's okay to say.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not always saying that's great compared to the work that I'm doing or whatever. But like, that's so important, is to encourage people that are just starting out. Yeah. It's hard to give constructive criticism like at that point, because I think the best constructive criticism is just keep going, keep making stuff, keep putting it out there.
Yeah. And I think they saw my progression too, and I saw my progression. Like you said, I thought I was being very artistic, and these the way that I used to edit these photos is just crazy.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, go and look. It's,
I started to go back into your Instagram because I love looking at like the really old stuff, but you've produced so much
I know.
that I'm like, fuck, dude, I was doing
know.
it for so long that eventually Instagram stopped, and I wasn't doing it on my phone, I was doing it on the desktop. It stopped loading, and then it's like error.
Yeah.
I think I got back to 2016 or 15
Okay,
around
yeah.
there. So I don't know how much when you started.
2012.
Oh, okay. So I had a ways to go.
Yeah.
Have you always been that consistent since back then?
Yeah. I try every day to put something out there. It's funny, like now I have a library of photos just like that'll never go on Instagram. It's just, or maybe they will, but I mean over 300,000 photos in my library, and that's even after deleting a lot of like, oh no, I'll never use this. But yeah, I mean a lot of the stuff is just for me. I like to shoot for me, like those. I have like an in with those biker groups, and I go and shoot that kind of stuff, which I love because nobody else can get in there and shoot it. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll go and shoot stuff like that.
That's always got to be one of the hardest things about photography and about filmmaking is access. It's access and finding the right location,
Right.
and finding the right place to shoot.
Yeah.
And it seems like you being a product of LA, a lot of that came naturally to you.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. Growing up in LA and doing, it's funny, like my past life helps me with my life today. I did a lot of traveling around LA. It comes back to selling drugs. Like you have to find these like weird little spots to meet people because you can't keep the same spot, because if you do, a cop will catch you. People start to catch on. So you have to like find all these spots around LA to meet people. And
That's insane.
It's kind of embarrassing, but it helps. It helped me.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you mapped the city because you were dealing drugs.
Yeah.
And then now but little did you know that was your first location scout.
Right. Exactly. It's crazy. I never thought of it that way. I mean, I never looked at a sunset before photography. It's just like, okay, cool.
Dude, that's the same thing for me
Yeah.
with filmmaking. It's like, when do you, like, I would do like these sunrise, sunset time lapses.
Right.
And the first one I did, I was like, holy shit, like I've never sit down and watched the sunrise.
Yeah.
I was always sleeping. And then it got me to not only see that, and I think that's probably when you started to be like, holy shit, like it's not just about the photo that you're taking or the
Right.
video that you're shooting, it's about the whole process.
Yeah, it's inspiring. I mean, it's funny. Listening to myself now and thinking back to where I was, it's just like, wow, are you really saying that, Cole? But like watching the sunrise is inspiring to me. It's beautiful. You're up before most of the world is up, or your world, LA, is up, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see that. Just this is the beginning. You know.
It's hard to, vulnerability is definitely a part of my work, and it's something that started to come natural. I don't think it's easy when you first starting to like talk to people and have a platform for people to listen to you. Because growing up, you just kind of hold that stuff down, and being vulnerable is a sign of weakness.
Right.
And then you realize as you get older that that's actually because everybody else is kind of holding it back. It's refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
And when people can actually speak their mind and be true to themselves, that's when you can create your best art, and you can also connect with people on
Most
a different
definitely.
level.
Yeah, definitely.
So as you're starting to progress and you're working with your iPhone, do you see where this is going? And at what point do you, I'm curious about like when you start to turn it into a business, something that you can actually do full time.
I didn't realize I could turn it into a business until a company hit me up and said, do you want to do some work for us? I mean, it was Instagram based. My first couple jobs, they're like, okay, we want you to come shoot this, but we want you to post it on your Instagram. And when that happened, it's funny. I got very inspired by that, and I just started going after it. I was still working in the field, like very depressed, and I kind of just quit my job. And I mean, now I still work with boys' homes and stuff like that for just on my own time. Not getting paid for it, which I love. But yeah, that's kind of what inspired me in the beginning. It was just like these people offered me like $1,000 to post something on my Instagram. I'm like, okay.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of dough for your first
Yeah.
paid project.
Right. And I was like, this is okay. I could do this. I
Yeah.
could do this. I mean, it hurt. It hurt me for a while. I was making no money for a while, but I just kept at it. And those feelings of doubt came back when I wasn't making any money. I'm like, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? But all I did was spend every day on the street, exploring my city and taking photos. And while I had like other people in my ear, like my dad, just like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Now he's like my biggest fan.
That's
and
amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So you take 100 photos. How many of those are actually good enough for you to release online?
I would say about 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
When I first got my first camera, I would go out and I would take about 600 to 700 photos in a day, and sometimes I would only want to use one of them. But I mean, now it's kind of reversed where I could go out and just take like 40 photos and I can use like 1 or 2. My eye, I guess, has kind of been, I guess, refined to where I can see what I want and capture it quickly, and I don't have to take as many photos now. But some days I still go out and just snap photos of weird things because I'm like, am I missing something? It's just like my head is constantly going, am I missing something? Is that texture cool? Even though like people on Instagram won't think it's cool, or I don't think it's cool right now, but I might think it's cool in like a week. I kind of shoot some things I shoot for the future, especially like street scenes that are kind of boring, but like some of my favorite photos. Like if you look back to the 30s or 40s in LA, it's just like a normal street scene, but it's so cool now, because nothing looks the same. People aren't dressed the same. Those buildings aren't there anymore. Those cars, like, you'll never see on the streets again, horse and carriage, or like, even like shooting a Prius right now in 50 years, it's like, what is that thing?
Yeah, or like a Tesla. It's like, that
Right.
was the first one.
Right.
It was.
Right.
It's like the Ford, like the first Ford car.
Yeah, exactly.
It's I never thought about it like that, but what can be just a regular photo today can be a masterpiece in 50 years.
Exactly. And I've been thinking like that for like the last 2-3 years, and a lot of the stuff I don't show on Instagram are those photos, or it's just something that's going to be cool in like 20, 30, 40 years.
Sometimes you can get surprised too when you come back and you look through, and that's the most exciting part for me, is that you go out, you shoot all day, or we shoot this podcast, and then I capture it all, and then I'm like, oh shit, that came out really good.
Yeah,
and like, you even the conversation we're having right now, you forget the intricacies and like maybe the wisdom that's packed into it, and all of a sudden when you go back and you look at it on your computer, you can start to see what is worth sharing, but you didn't realize it necessarily in the moment.
Right, exactly. I'll go back photos I shot 3 years ago. I'm like, wow, I shot that. I can use that right now. You know, it's cool. It's definitely cool.
You said you have 300,000 about somewhere,
maybe
give or
more,
take, give or take 1 or 2. How do you keep all that organized? Like, I'm actually curious about the, your process of organizing the photos, and then also being able to go back and pull them out.
Yeah. I have a bunch of external hard drives that I keep them on, and some days, like in the morning, usually, I just sit in bed, drink coffee, and go through them and kind of see what I've done over the years and see if I want to use a photo today or like edit a photo. I love editing too. Like, a lot of people hate it. It's like one of my favorite things to do.
It's a big part of your work.
A huge part. Yeah. Yeah. I love it though. I mean,
you're really good at it. Like, I'm like, shit, when I look at your color grade, I'm like, like it obviously isn't apples to apples with video. It's a little bit different. The editing tools are a little bit different.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, I just want that. I know you do some presets and stuff like that. I'm like, I just want that preset for video.
Yeah.
But do you work from presets a lot of times, or you kind of
a lot of times I start fresh, but I save a lot of my presets. Like I shoot a lot of the same way, like. And that's important for making presets. If you're going to do presets, is you have to shoot in the same kind of light, same settings on the camera, and then it'll usually work. Give or take, like you might have to take some contrast down or highlights, but yeah. Sometimes presets that I've made myself, or sometimes I'll start from scratch.
Is this in Lightroom?
Lightroom, yeah.
Lightroom, yeah. And then what's like the look? Like all your photos do have a consistency to them. Mm-hmm. Like how do you develop that style? Is that just evolved over the years?
I think it's just evolved over the years. And I shoot like 2 stops under.
Okay.
I shoot darker. Shoot. The regular photographer would be like, "Oh man, you're shooting way too dark. That's not how you should be shooting." And it's like, this is how I shoot.
Yeah.
You know, there's no. That's what gets me sometimes. Is like these artists or photographers. They preach like there's no rules in art or photography, but then all of a sudden they're giving me these rules, and it's like I totally understand there aren't. I don't think there's rules. I think you should shoot what you like and shoot what you see, and that's it. There shouldn't be any rules. To me, there's no rules.
I think you have to remind yourself of that because I definitely find myself falling into certain habits and routines that don't keep me as flexible.
Right.
Where I'm like, well, I got to do it this way because that's how I did it for the past 40 episodes.
Yeah.
When I'm like, well, actually, if I change this tiny thing, like to get even a specific example, like for the longest time, and it sounds trivial, but it like had this kind of pretty profound realization for me that freed me up to kind of create and release stuff whenever I want. But essentially, like on my thumbnails for all the videos that I would create and like the actual SoundCloud thumbnail for this podcast, I would put the actual episode number in. And sometimes, you know, like we were saying early on, I record a lot of podcasts, and you know, this week I'm doing 3, and then but every once in a while I might get, you know, somebody well known or an episode that I'm really excited about that I want to push tomorrow, or I want to push the next week. Yeah. But if I create 10 episodes and they all have this actual number on them built into it, a rule that I just made up in my head, all of a sudden I have to go back, I have to re-edit 20 photos if I want to release this one early. So recently I'm like, why don't I just remove the number? Why did I make up that rule for myself? So I removed the number, and then now I can schedule these in. But I can also push back the scheduling. It just makes my life so much easier and more flexible. And I guess to the other end is that rules help to give us some guidance, and you know, obviously if we had to reinvent the wheel every time we went out to make something, it would be near impossible, because even shooting 2 stops under is like a quote unquote rule, or at least a guideline that you've created for yourself, but it's rethinking and knowing when to tweak the recipe.
Most definitely, especially and that shows up in my work too. It's like I can't shoot 2 stops under when I'm shooting for like Adidas or Jaguar. Like they like that really clean look. I get to put a little bit of my style into that, especially with how I shoot the car or the shoes or the model or whatever it is. I get to put like my little spin on it with my angles or editing even sometimes. But no, for sure. You're right. You're right. You can't. Those are kind of rules for myself.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, you define those.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can also change it up if it doesn't fit the exact situation. It just takes a little bit of mindfulness to be able to step back and look at your process. And feel when things aren't working. A lot of times we get so busy and so caught up in our everyday life and this, especially as creators, to keep putting stuff out, keep creating, that we don't actually look at the process in which we are creating.
Right. No, that's true.
And sometimes it's that process that's where the art comes from, right? Like even when you're editing, there's a process there that it subtly changes from photo to photo, but it's a process nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of the way that I shoot or edit some days is how I'm feeling, you know, especially my edits. Like some will be happy and some will be very moody. And if you pay attention on Instagram, you kind of know how I'm feeling that day. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So when you're starting to actually build this business, like you get that first $1,000 from this one client, and you said was it slow to build after that? Like it still wasn't like, hey, now we're rolling. Now you know. It's easy.
It was very slow. There was certain points where I was ready to give up, and someone it's weird. Someone would hit me up and be like, "Hey, do you want to do this thing for a couple $100 or like $500 or $1,000?" And it would keep me going. I mean, what really kept me going was how I got my first camera. I couldn't afford a camera. I really wanted to get a camera, and I was in Las Vegas visiting my aunt. And if you've ever been to Las Vegas, you know there's slot machines everywhere, even in like 7-Elevens or like gas stations. And she gave me some money to walk to. I think it was a mobile gas station. I can't remember the gas station. And there were some slots in there, and when I walked in, I noticed this lady playing on this slot, and she like moved over to this next slot, and I had a little bit of change left after getting what my aunt wanted, and I put it in a slot machine, and I won $4,000. And at that time, there was the biggest like camera show, I think in the States, was in town, and I went right over there and I bought a camera. I bought my first camera.
Get out of here.
And that kept me going over the years and months where I was like ready to give up. I'm like, no, I think I'm meant to do this. And that's what kept me going. It's just like, who does that happen to? You know, I've never won anything in Las Vegas, and all of a sudden I won enough just to cover what I wanted on a camera and lens kit. It's pretty crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story too. It's just that sometimes you don't know when you're gonna get lucky, when it's finally gonna pay off,
right?
The work that you're putting in, and then you get that first camera,
mm-hmm.
and then I'm sure you don't take it for granted,
right?
And you're just like shoot like crazy with this thing.
I went nuts. Right after I got it, I got my aunt, and I was like, take me up to it was like, I can't remember the name, but it's like right outside. It's Red Rock National Park, maybe.
Yeah, I've been there. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah, I had her take me there. I was like, there was like donkeys there, wild donkeys. I was shooting wild donkeys in the field. Just like, not anything I really even wanted to shoot.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mess with it. I was so excited that I had my first camera.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What was the camera?
It was a Nikon D610.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you stuck with Nikon. That was just from that first time. Was there a reason why you went with that camera, or just?
I've played with other cameras over the years, like Canon but I don't know, Nikon. It just feels right in my hand, and to me, it may be totally in my head, but I feel like Nikon images are sharper. But it may totally in my head.
Totally in your head.
Yeah. But
yeah, no, I feel that, dude. I feel that way sometimes too. Where I see somebody else though, they shoot with something or they film with whatever camera, and I'm like, damn, that looks so good. But then when I shoot with it, I'm like, this looks like garbage.
Yeah.
This is not the camera for me. For whatever reason, it's just not aligning.
Exactly. And I've always been the kind of person to, like, the reason I went with Nikon in the first place was at the time on Instagram, everybody was shooting with Canon, and I've always been the guy to go the other way.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah. I'm gonna get Nikon.
Do this shit different. Yeah. Now I'm the guy that just follows along. Like everybody was Canon for a while, and then Sony came out with these cameras, and I'm like, all right, I'll do Sony.
Yeah.
But I do like experimenting and trying different cameras. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously a tool is a tool, and you can make use with whichever best camera is the one that you own. For sure. And dude, your first camera was the iPhone 4.
Exactly. So I know that better than anybody for sure. It's just like just whatever you have, and I always tell people that. Yeah. It's like a lot of people ask me, what camera do you use? What camera do you use? What camera do you use? And I tell them, but I also tell them, like, just use what you have. It's not, you don't have to get the exact same camera as me, even if it's the iPhone. I mean, it's fine.
Even the recent iPhone compared to the iPhone 4, like,
crazy.
What?
Yeah.
The quality is unbelievable.
It's insane.
But I wonder, are we getting, I don't know, for some people, they kind of are discouraged by that, because then everybody can shoot at that quality. Like, what would you say to somebody that is like, oh, well, I'm not, I don't want to just shoot with my iPhone because it's going to look like everybody else's photo. Is that even true?
To me, that's not true. I feel like unless you're going out specifically trying to make it look like everybody else's photo, then I don't think that's true. I think everybody has their own eye, and if they follow that, it won't look like everybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
We're all individuals, and I mean, we're all different in ways. And if you're not, of course, like we said earlier in the beginning, you kind of have to like base your style, because you don't have. At least for me, I didn't have anybody. I didn't know about photographers. I didn't grow up like that. I had no idea who Steve McCurry was, or who is my favorite photographer, by the way.
For those that don't know.
Yeah, for those that don't know, he is my favorite photographer now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know who these people were, so it's like, what are these people doing on Instagram? And I would try to maybe put a little spin on it, but for the most part, it was kind of what other people were doing. But no, I don't think that's true at all. I think you can go and do different stuff for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice. Just getting started out is just see what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Like copy it, whatever. Like don't actually steal. Don't actually take the stuff that they're making. Make your own stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if you see a beautiful sunset that they shot in Los Angeles and you live in LA,
right,
go to the place where they shot it.
Yeah.
Maybe try to take a similar shot, or you know, use your own use your own eye there. But early on, like man, I would just, especially with the film stuff, I would just like, I saw somebody shoot footage of their backyard. I was like, that's dope. Like they really killed that shoot in their backyard.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, all right, when I got my first professional camera, I went out and I shot my backyard, and I did it in a similar way, and I had a similar color grade to it, but I learned. Yeah. And then that was the first thing I made, and then you build upon that, and then eventually over time you're going to come up with your own style.
Right, exactly.
And what fits with you.
Exactly. And that, I mean, and that's the progression. And looking through my stuff online, you can see the progression for sure. It's just, and I've kind of like reinvented myself several times. Like if you start from the beginning and go to what I am now, I like sometimes I've come back to what I did in the beginning, and other times like I'm just like on a sunset kick. I was just like, I fucking love the sunsets lately. I'm just gonna post sunsets and shoot sunsets. And other times I'm like on Skid Row shooting homeless people and talking to them. And yeah, it's weird. It's been a weird ride, honestly.
For real, man.
It's been a very weird ride. It's taken me to a lot of places that I never thought I would go, and yeah.
It's got to be surreal.
Very surreal. Very surreal. I mean, like I said, I thought I was going to be dead at 16. I'm 32 now, and I'm still here and creating stuff and getting paid for what I love. And I mean, look, I could be here on a Tuesday, you know, like most people are at work right now, doing what they don't like to do. To be completely honest and frank, it's just, there's a lot of people that don't follow their dream. And I was very lucky. I got the chance to do that, and I went through a lot of stuff in the process, but I mean, I made it out the other side for sure. I'm not exactly where I want to be, but yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are currently drudging through something that they don't like, a 9-to-5 job, whatever it might be, that's not fulfilling to them. Right. What advice would you give to people that that want to take that step but just don't know which direction to head?
I mean, I feel like they need to have that direction before they actually take the step. You know, I kind of fell into photography because of depression and having it help with that. So, I don't know. That's a hard one. I feel like they'd have to have the direction first, maybe.
And everybody's journey is so specific. Right. It's hard to give that kind of blanket advice. Like if somebody came to you and was asking, you know, what would you do if you were in my position? The one thing that I do say to people is be very calculated. Take risks, but be calculated with your risks. Right. Because I graduated college with $100,000 in debt. Like just in this hole where I was like, I have to be very smart about the decisions I make, because I made bad mistakes in the past, and look where it put me. Yeah. Like I don't have the freedom to get up and move wherever I want or take any job that I want, because I need to take a job to make money. Right. So like, how can I get out of this hole? That pushed me in the direction I want it to head.
Yeah.
But eventually you can start to take risks as you start to be a little bit more safe. I think it's a balance of being safe and taking risk and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as far as being a photographer, I wouldn't say yes to everything too. It's just like, even in the beginning when I wasn't making a lot of money, like I felt like I was worth more. And looking back, I probably wasn't, but I just had that about myself. I'm like, I'm worth more than they're offering. I need this money, but I'm going to say no anyways. And so like that was a lot of like, I put that on myself, just like I needed the money, but I'm going to say no anyways because I feel like I'm worth a lot more. And that made me go out and work that much harder to get to where I feel like I actually am worth something now in the photography world.
It's the hardest thing to do when you don't have the money and you don't have the projects coming in. Yeah. But that was for me undoubtedly the most important thing to do to further myself.
I've always just gone with my gut. I try to as much as I can. I can't say always, but as much as I can, I try to. I try to for sure. Just always went with how I felt. I mean, so yeah.
Yeah, and the further and further you get along, the more you're going to be saying no to things.
Yeah.
The more, I mean, dude, I'm sure you get hit up all the time, and you have to continue to be like, nope, sorry, it doesn't fit. Nope.
Yeah. The most annoying one are these like watch companies. Like, we'll give you this watch that's retails for like $80, but it was made for like 5 cents. It's like, no,
that's crazy. Yeah. Everybody. Oh, I love the ones that are like, it'll be great if you're real. Like, it's not, you're not going to get paid, but it's going to be really good for your reel.
Yeah,
it's
so annoying.
It's like, I got a few ideas of my own that would be good for my reel. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's great exposure. No pay, but great exposure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
It's very easy to say no to those things.
Yeah.
I think, especially in the beginning, like advice would be, don't take projects for free unless you're really passionate about it.
Right.
Unless it's something that really aligns with your vision and you have creative control. Like, don't just do it because somebody asked you to do it. A lot of times you can feel compelled because we're good. Most of us are good people and we just want to help people. But at the end of the day, if you're running a business or you're trying to further your craft, you have to be thoughtful about the projects you take.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a very hard thing to do though. It's a very hard thing to say no, especially if you need the money. It is for sure. But
how have you navigated that as you get hit up more and more? How do you approach saying no?
In what way? Like,
so say somebody, I know some people like have just certain blanket responses, but like people email you or they hit you up on Instagram and they ask for something, whether it's to work with them or it's to like do an interview or something like this. When you don't want to do it, how do you say no? Because obviously, like, you want to be tactful and you also want to be respectful of that person.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you just can't respond to everybody, but to the people that you do want to actually continue a relationship with, you have to be almost soft with the no.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's something I had to learn over the years too. I was never very soft. I was very like blunt and honest and would hurt people's feelings and didn't really understand that I was hurting people's feelings until now. It's like, I wasn't around a lot of people that were very nice. And it didn't matter to me if I hurt your feelings or not in the beginning. But now it definitely matters. Just being a respectful human being is very important to me. And so, yeah, you have to be very light sometimes with people. And especially, I don't know. I mean, to continue the relationship, it just be like, I can't really do this now, but I would love to do something with you in the future or something like that.
Yeah. Especially online, you have to be a little bit more delicate because it's very easy to be like, sorry, not now, like in an email, something quick, because I mean, they're asking for your attention. And I try to be really mindful. And lately, I actually just recently started this book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. Incredible book about eliminating distractions. So everybody's trying to vie for our attention. Our email inbox gets, filled up throughout the day. And man, like I would check my email. Oh, it must have been a couple hundred times. Like, just like, because that's just what you do. It's just, you get into this habit. You get in the habit of checking Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And we just keep popping in and out, when we could be working on something that's actually going to further our craft.
Yeah.
We're not actually like, I don't think most of us experience deep joy when we're in our inbox or when we're on Instagram.
No, for sure.
So we need to be able to organize that time. And that's something that I've been trying to do, and like scheduling my social posts and saying, all right, I'm only going to check email twice today, once in the morning and then once at night.
Right.
Oh man, like it clears my head and it allows me to focus on the work that I need to.
Yeah. I mean, my inbox used to be at 0. Like if you looked at my phone, it would be 0 because I would check every time something came in for sure. I mean, if you look at it now, let's see what it's at.
This would be great.
11,320.
Oh, shit. That's great, man. So you got a busy day ahead of you responding to all those emails.
I wouldn't be responding to all those today.
How do you know? Do you just go? Probably comes back to your gut, like which ones to respond to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do feel bad not responding to everybody, but I mean, I get a lot of emails. I mean, that's probably over the last couple 2-3 months.
Yeah.
You know, I'll eventually go through it, but yeah, it comes down to a gut thing. It's like, oh yeah, I've seen something from this guy before, or that's a project I want to do, and yeah.
Well, you've got a very big following, so that's also tough because you have more and more people that are watching your stuff and then want to reach out to you in some form or fashion.
Right.
And the further you progress down this journey, and if more people continue to become interested in your work, it's just going to be more difficult, and you can't reply to all of them. Yeah. I love Tim Ferriss has got a good one where he's got like an autoresponder. I mean, he's got like secret emails and shit that he doesn't share with anybody else, but because he actually showed his email inbox recently on a podcast that I was watching with Rich Roll, who was on the show.
Oh yeah,
and 300,000 in his inbox, and that's like I think that's like one of his hidden emails, but because he doesn't respond to anybody, he has an autoresponder, which I think is great. Like his autoresponder basically says, you know, due to high volume, I'm likely not to respond. If it's about this and this and this, I'm definitely not going to respond. He's like, I'm not doing book blurbs right now. Sorry. You know,
that's awesome.
But I'm like, that's great. And like when I get really busy, if I'm working on a film, I'm probably going to do that because it's just easier for people. And also like you can actually soften it in that way, right? Like preemptively where you don't have to do it every time and be distracted. Yeah. We're in a distracted world right now. Like it's so easy. It's so much easier to open up your phone and go on social media than it is to sit down and do the work. Yeah. How do you stay focused and, you know, kind of resist that pull?
You mean like going out and like shooting and stuff
versus going on social media and like not creating?
I think it just comes with who I am. I just I love it, so I do it. Mm-hmm. You know, the pull to create is very, very strong. Like if I'm not creating, I try to take one photo a day that I really like. So even if I have a super busy day, I go out and do it anyways. Like yesterday, I was working for 12 hours. I was with a friend shooting, and I didn't get to create anything that I liked that day. So I went out at night. Like I went home, took a shower, I ate because I hadn't eaten all day, and then I went out and walked around my neighborhood until I found something that I liked. And that's what I do. I don't know exactly what that is in me, but it's just a pull to create. And it's not like a rule or anything like we were talking about earlier. It's what I feel like I have to do. Mm-hmm.
I think it's the book called On Writing. He said he just sits down and writes every single day. Yeah. No matter what, no matter how much time it is, he just sits down and he forces himself to write that first sentence. Yeah. This guy's crazy though. He'll do it on the holidays and like on Christmas morning, he'll get up and write. I'm like, that's great. But doing that, and I find that same habit for me with exercise and then like lifting. It's if I take 2 days off in a row, that's my rule, right? Where I'm like, I will not take more than 2 days off in a row because if I do, that third day is so much easier to add on to it. Right. That eventually, all of a sudden, it's been 2 months and I haven't been to the gym once. Exactly. And that's the same exact thing with creating art, where if you're not consistently creating it, you're going to lose that steam and you're not going to
most definitely
keep pushing stuff out.
Most definitely.
You said you're not where you want to be right now. Yeah. Where do you have a vision of where you do want to be?
Um, I mean, I do say no to a lot of things, but I always just have this vision of like, because I have a friend, I have a few friends that are very successful photographers, and they're like, oh yeah, another email came in, or my manager just hit me up and these people want to pay me $20,000. I'm like, no way. I'm like, what do you mean, man? Like,
Yeah.
pass them over, you know?
Yeah.
Pass those over to me then. I guess that's like maybe not a selfish vision, but it's just like I kind of want to get to that point where I just can work on the stuff that I really want to work on. I do a lot of the stuff that I do is stuff that I want to work on. Like I work with Jaguar and Adidas all the time. It's like I love working with them because they give me the creative freedom that I like, and it's cool. But just like I don't know, seeing some of my friends, just like it's kind of like a little hidden goal of mine to get there to where they're at. It's just like I can say no to a $20,000 job because I want to work on something that I want to work on today instead of like working for money.
Yeah, it's
know?
not necessarily getting the $20,000
Right.
project. It's being able to say no to
Yeah.
that. And that's a huge step for
Yeah.
any creative.
Yeah.
I think it comes with understanding that you don't need that project.
Yeah.
Like, I think it also takes, it is taking risks as well. Because recently I stopped doing client work to
Right.
just pursue this podcast.
Yeah.
Which like I don't
Hey,
make
man.
any, yeah, man, like I don't make any money doing this podcast yet, but I'm like, I have a vision for it and what I want to do with it and where I want it to go. But it was a big risk because
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm actually at that point where I'm like starting to turn down these big projects that are $20,000, $30,000.
Right.
And every time I get that email and I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
should I just do this one?
Yeah.
Should I do this one?
It's rough.
Because man, it's damn good money, but the path I chose is so unguaranteed.
Yeah.
But it's also, I know it's gonna be so much more fulfilling. It's gonna
Right.
be, I have to go down this route. If I don't take a stab at it, if I don't try it, then I'm gonna regret it.
Yeah.
But and also knowing that you can always go back to that. Like,
Yeah.
shit, man, if for whatever reason 2 years down the road I'm like, all right, you know what, I'm gonna have to start picking up some client work to fill in the gaps. Great, like I can totally
I mean,
do that.
just for me, just the knowing that I went for a dream, even if it didn't work out, it would have been worth more than that $20,000, $30,000 job in myself. It's like I don't want to look back and be 60 or 70 and be like, why didn't I just do that? It's just like so dumb, you know? It's like I talk to a lot of elderly people, and they inspire me. They really inspire me because it's like some people did what they wanted to do and some people didn't, and both of them inspire me. It's just like I don't want to be in a nursing home when I'm like 70 or 80 and be like, man, I should have done that. I should have done this. It's very cliche, but very few people do it.
You can't do everything. Like
Yeah.
as much as I would love to take the project and do this
Right.
podcast and you know
Yeah.
create films as well, you physically can't do everything.
Yeah.
So that also it just comes with stepping back and saying, all right, what do I want out of life? What's the life that I want to create? Sometimes it means taking money and taking the project. Sometimes it means pausing and fulfilling a passion project. Life isn't so black and white. It's not so easy to
Right.
say, hey, take this path or go for it right now, because right now might not be the best time for you. But if you miss 2 days at the gym, or you know,
Yeah.
if it's been so long where you haven't created your art, then you really got to start thinking inward and thinking,
Yeah.
all right, man, like what are the steps I need to take in order to not have any regrets
Right.
at the end?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that would just be the worst to look back, because once you're older, like, you know, sure you can have success later in life, but I don't think you should wait around or expect that, oh, once you retire at 65 then you can start fulfilling your passions. Man, that's like a majority of your life down the drain without
Right.
actually
Exactly.
pursuing what you love.
And I don't want to be that person. I think it helps for me too that I had a lot of regrets in my life. I've done a lot of crazy things that I regret, but excuse me. So yeah, I think that helps that I've had those regrets pretty early on, and can see past that now, and not want to have any more.
In the whole, you know, what's funny is like just looking at your photos and actually just like looking you up online, I saw that there have been some people that have stolen your work, and it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's a weird world these
Yeah.
days now,
Yeah.
where you put stuff out there, and then you have these famous people or anybody, dude. I mean, probably every photo you take, hundreds of people are pulling it and putting it up on their own Instagram accounts.
Oh yeah.
I love that you don't do watermarks. I feel like, yo, like,
Yeah.
I feel like that. Oh, man, if we could just inspire photographers
To me,
and
it's very
filmmakers not
pretentious.
to use watermarks.
Yeah. Just in my own mind, it might not even be true. It's just very pretentious. Like, this is me, you know? I just don't like it.
It also like, it's almost like, I'm not spiritual, but it's like this is sacred. This is like your art. This is what
Right.
you're putting out into the world.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna put like blast a logo on top of
Right.
it. It's like the last thing the world needs is another logo on a piece of
Exactly.
art.
And one of my friends is a photographer, and I laugh because he does sell prints, but he says something similar to that. I was like, because he never signs a print. He just won't do it. Like, and he shoots a lot of cool people, and I wanted him to sign a specific piece, and he's like, no. And we've been friends for a while. He's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not signing it.
Yeah.
Like, why not? And he said something similar to that. It's like, I don't need to put my name on it. Mm-hmm. People who know will know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't. It's not important to me.
Yeah. And with that, so you have people that will like will steal and you know post it as their own work or
Yeah.
post it without attribution. How do you feel about that? Like, I mean, obviously, when somebody doesn't give credit, that's like the ultimate. We can call it a dick move. That's a dick move to steal somebody's
Yeah.
shit and then not give them credit for it. How do you feel about people actually crediting you, like posting your work elsewhere and giving you credit? Is that also frowned upon in your perspective?
It used to bother me a lot more, but now like I get DMs and emails like, oh yeah, your photos on Pinterest and Twitter, and like it's been reposted like 10,000 times or retweeted. I do have a Twitter, but I haven't been on it in years. Mm-hmm. I don't have a Pinterest. The only social media that I'm on is Instagram. I'm not on Facebook or anything. And my stuff is reposted to these other sites. I feel like because they know I'm not on it a lot.
They know they can get away with it. Or
They know
they
that,
can.
yeah. And I get all these notes from my the great people that follow me, is like really follow me closely and like know my work.
Yeah. They like seek that shit out.
Yeah.
They're like, I found another one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really appreciate it, but to be honest, it just doesn't bother me anymore. It's just it's kind of a form of flattery. It's like, that's cool. They thought it was cool enough to repost or put up on their own Instagram. It's like, it's fine.
Yeah. How I view it is that even if somebody was taking credit for it, they're never going to be able to make it.
Exactly.
If you just keep copying my shit, you're not going to be able to make it yourself.
Yeah.
All right, good luck. Like, you know, just
Yeah.
keep taking my stuff. Obviously, if they're like selling it or making money on it, that's a problem. We should try to stop that if you can, if you have the power to.
See, now that's a different story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even sell my own prints. And
Right. I'm sure
I-
people do that, right?
They do. I can't remember the name of the website, but recently they've been caught, and for some reason it's legal.
What?
Yeah, because of like Instagram's something on Instagram, like in
The
the
copyright, whatever it
Yeah.
is, like you accept that.
once you put it out there, it's like it's kind of property of Instagram.
So was Instagram? It was like
No, it wasn't.
Oh, no.
It wasn't Instagram. It was another.
Oh, but then like you couldn't sue. Instagram would have to.
Right, and they're just not gonna do that.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
So on the computer, I guess there's a way to it's not a screenshot, but like screen grab and get like almost full
resolution
on it, and you can print it out.
Oh my
I don't know how
God.
to do it. But
I mean, it's probably something. There's might be an app or some kind of code where you can just
Yeah.
plug in. I'm sure,
Right.
like my brother, he's pretty good with code. Like he could pop in and figure
I'm
out
sure he
how
could
to
figure it out. Yeah.
how to pull it off.
Yeah.
But shit, I never even thought about that. That's insane.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Nah.
There's like this guy out there making money off of my prints, and
Yeah,
I
he's
don't
like a
even sell my own.
millionaire. I know. You know what though? There's Leo Babauta. He's got site called zenhabits.net. He was in our documentary Minimalism, but amazing guy. But he uncopyrights all of his stuff. So anything he writes in a book, he's like, he has a little thing beforehand. He's like, this is uncopywritten, so you can take anything, repurpose it, reword it, rephrase it, quote me, don't quote me. Although I would appreciate, you to attribute me for my work. And in a way, I guess that frees you up. It's not the smartest business decision, and it's not something I personally would do.
Right.
But I think you do have to let go of the fact that you can't control. And like the more success you get, the more that there's going to be people trying to rip you off or profit off of your work. Mm-hmm. But you have to just let it go, or else it's going to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely didn't come into this world to worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. In terms of like when you're scheduling these posts and putting them out on Instagram, like I was saying, I'm starting to get better at that, and like finding apps that can help me to schedule this stuff, because as content creators, we're putting stuff out on a regular basis.
Yeah. So,
but it sounds like, do you post just in the moment every day? Like you said, you go through your stuff. You don't schedule things in advance?
Sometimes I'll, like I said, I love editing, so I'll edit several photos, and sometimes I don't sleep at night, so I'm just like editing. So I'll have photos in my phone to be able to post, but I don't schedule out like I'm gonna post this one this day and then that one that day. I don't do it like that. It's kind of like I said earlier. It's just how I'm feeling that day. Mm-hmm. And then most of the time I'll sit on my computer in the morning and try to kind of edit how I'm feeling that day. It's weird. It might not make sense to some people, but it makes sense to me.
It's what I like about that is that it shows kind of a in the moment or in the day, like how you are actually feeling.
Yeah.
Versus scheduling something a month in advance, and when you're putting it up there, it's you don't really get a feel for what's happening in the moment. And actually, like recently, you've been doing a lot of the stuff with the fires here in Southern California, which is like, those are moments that are happening right now that people should be aware of.
Yeah,
that must have been pretty fucking insane to shoot that
crazy
stuff.
I mean, I've been doing it for a little while, but there's this show on Netflix called Stringers. Have you seen that? Mm-mm. It's basically about these people that they sell stories to the news, but it's like overnight stuff because news companies aren't working then, unless it's something like crazy. So every story that you see on the news in the morning are from these guys that like stayed up all night and went to shoot these shows. And I've been doing stuff like that. I have like a police radio. I mean, I'm not selling stories to the news. Mm-hmm. I'm just doing it for myself. I haven't put any of it out on Instagram, but that kind of stuff excites me. Like, it sucks that there's like this huge fire in California and it's like messing up the air and like killing animals and stuff, but like it's there, it's happening, and I'm gonna go get it. And it excites me to go shoot that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it is crazy. It's crazy.
It's just finding the stories too, which seems to be, for me as a documentary filmmaker, finding the stories, it can be challenging.
Right.
But it's like you said, there's ways to see it. Is that how you get inspired by these things? Like you see, it's just like you come across it. You saw this show on Netflix, and you're like, oh shit, let me try.
Well, no, I mean, I've been doing it before I saw the show, but it definitely re-inspired me to go out and like get these kind of stories. Like they're in Compton and Watts, like waiting for crazy stuff to happen so they can sell it to news companies in the morning, like, and that's their living, and that's what they do for money. But me, I just that kind of stuff just excites me and inspires me, and I want to go out and do it.
It's got to be pretty thrilling too.
It is.
Because like, I mean, you were taking some of these photos where you're on the highway that's closed down.
Right. I was just walking.
You're kind of like
walking on the
and like hanging out behind the firefighters as they're going to put out a fire, and it's like to be there in that moment. Everybody else is watching this on TV,
right?
especially here in LA, everybody's like, "Oh shit!" Like what was the fire that was right here? The Skirball fire. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, okay. I'm looking up the trade winds, and I'm like, is that shit going to be coming over here to Hollywood?
Right.
All of a sudden, it makes it so much more real.
Yeah.
But making it really real is like you being there and actually seeing it, and it kind of puts it in perspective. But then also, it's great to be able to share that story and that message with other people, and to be able to put it on your Instagram account, and for other people to kind of see your own take on it.
I feel like the news and watching the news, like people have become so desensitized, and like when someone like me, if you follow me on Instagram, goes out and does it, it becomes a little bit more personalized, because you follow my work, you like my work. That's just how I feel. It's a little more personalized than like watching it on the news.
I think that's where it's eventually going to head. Like, obviously, the news is such an outdated system, and even like the voices that they put on. Like, welcome to ABC News.
Oh, they all sound the same.
Ba, 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 ba. Yeah. Like, it's just this certain cadence in how they talk. And it's like, well, that's not a real person.
Right.
And we're starting to...
It's very robotic.
Yeah, we're not... I don't think we're there anymore. And, so over the next 5 to 10 years, I think that's going to change radically. And I think it's going to be more personalized.
Yeah.
Where it's like, shit, if everybody has a microphone, everybody has a camera, everybody has all these tools at their disposal, there's going to be people like you that go out there, that share their story in their own way. And that's going to be how we get our news. I think it also, like, there's a lot of responsibility in that, because you have an organization like the New York Times or the Atlantic, and they have these very strict protocols for how they tell a story.
Right.
And we need to make sure that we instill that in people that are like just starting out, or that are creating, or that have a platform. Yeah. Like, there's certain values and integrity that you need to uphold when you're telling a story, so it's told in the right way.
To me, you tell the real story. I mean, a lot of stuff, like my favorite photo that I took this year was from those fires. It was just personal favorite. And they weren't telling any of this on the news or anything. I don't really watch the news because I don't believe everything that's on there. And this certain photo that I took, it was prisoners from prison. They were helping with the fire. Like, I don't know if you saw that photo.
Yeah, I did.
And it was all prisoners helping. And they're not going to talk about that on the news, because I don't know why, but it's
just those stories that just get lost because they're not
that's important.
Sensational.
It's important to me because, like, I mean, they talk about the firefighters, but they don't talk about these.
Yeah, hold that up here. I can get it on this a little higher. There we go. That's the shot. That's crazy, man. Fuck, dude. If that doesn't look like World War I or some shit.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, and all those guys in that field are all prisoners, and I don't know why it wasn't talked about more. I don't know why they won't talk about it. Is it because they're prisoners and society has this view of them that they're all bad people because they're in prison? You know, it's just like, I mean, I don't know.
What an amazing little moment to capture.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I was surprised that they even let me. I mean, because there was behind me in this shot, there was like sheriffs just like riding back and forth in their cars, making sure the prisoners don't run, but
run into the fog.
Yeah, and get away.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff I like. I've just been, especially the fire stuff. I don't know how. I've just kind of, before I even got the radio, I've kind of just like stumbled on them and like got there before the firefighters. And I mean, this one in the Arts District last year, it's like this propane factory, and they had like all these propane things, and they just kept blowing up. And I was there before the firefighters, and
you just like heard it outside. Would you see it on like the radio?
No, I didn't have the radio then. I was just driving by. It's like things happen around you every day that most people will miss. Like, I mean, obviously you're not going to miss a bunch of propane tanks blowing up because it's really loud. But my point is, it's like if you're out there every day, if you're a photographer or artist, even like a painter, if you're out there every day looking for inspiration, it's all around you. And that's kind of how I stay off social media a lot and like not pay attention to it, is because I know these things are happening around me, and the more I'm on my phone, the more I'm gonna miss.
Is that why you bring your camera everywhere?
Yep.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. I don't leave home without it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you don't do the strap either.
Oh, no.
Dude, I've done that. Like, I've been sitting out of helicopters without a strap.
Oh, yeah.
Where I'm like, I got a grip on it. I'm not going to drop this thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't go anywhere without it. I mean, even sometimes I'll take it. Not sometimes. If I go out to dinner, I have it with me. I just don't know when that moment's gonna happen. You know, I don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
I've missed too many of those moments because in the beginning, I wouldn't bring it everywhere with me, and I've missed a lot of stuff, and I'm just like, that's never gonna happen again.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful example of where life and work can be one. A lot of people are trying to achieve a balance, a work-life balance. But if you really love what you do, it can just be a part of your life, and it doesn't need to negatively affect it.
Right. No, for sure.
All right, man. I think that's a good place to do some little round we call quick questions.
Okay.
Quick questions, not quick answers. So feel free to elaborate if you want. But we'll get into it here. What one book has had the biggest impact on your life?
It's funny. It was a kid book, The Giving Tree. I don't know if you ever read that book when you were a kid, but yeah.
What was it about the book?
Just like the giving spirit. You know, like as a kid, I didn't have that growing up, and it's like basically it was only my grandma instilling good in me, and she's the one that like read that book to me all the time. And kind of instilled in me the giving spirit, and I feel like that's kind of what I'm put on this earth to do, is like help give back and share. So, and that's what I'm doing with photography.
When are you happiest?
When I'm behind the camera.
Where do you go when you're feeling doubt?
Feeling doubt?
Mm-hmm.
I go to my dad now.
Yeah.
I go to my dad. A lot of things have changed in that relationship, and I go to my dad now.
That's great. It's so important to have family and friends that you can
Yeah.
count on to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we all go through doubt. We all feel like we're not sure if we're on the right path, and just to have a sounding board, just for somebody to listen, is the most important thing, I think.
Yeah.
What drives you forward?
In photography, getting that next moment, the next photo that I'm gonna love. In life, it's just people inspire me to go forward.
What's the simplest advice that's the most important to follow?
Stay true to yourself. Listen to your gut.
We talked about it briefly. We could talk about it now.
Yeah.
But as you know, I'm trying to get The Rock on the podcast. And it's just been like, I'm glad that you appreciate this challenge and this goal so much.
Yeah.
Because this is like my biggest dream. This is like, if I'm trying to shoot for something big, this is it. Like, how crazy would it be if I could get The Rock on my podcast?
Yeah, sitting right here, man.
Yeah, man. I guess I'm curious if you have any advice for me as to how I could convince The Rock. I've got, by the way, just to fill you in, I've got a website.
Yeah.
It's called GetTheRockOnMatt'sPodcast.com.
Oh, you made a whole website.
I've made
Hey, man, I think you're on the right track of just like not giving up on the dream.
Yeah, and like the thing is like making it real, and literally just talking about it for me makes me feel like it's like it might happen. Like if I just had this idea in my head and I never told anybody,
right?
I don't think any chance it's gonna happen here. Look, I can show you the website here. I've actually, my favorite thing about it, so that's this is like the main website. It's just a part of my other website, but
that's awesome.
Go to Get the Rock on Matt's podcast. I made like videos, and I made this big tweet button that if you click on the button, it auto generates, and there's like 10 to 15 different tweets at The Rock.
Really?
So I've had like hundreds of people plug in and create their own. See, look at it. So it'll just create like an auto generated. My brother is like really good at code, so he like developed some kind of code for it. I was like, I
feel like it's gonna happen for you.
You think so?
I just do. Yeah.
I
feel like
good
it
vibes.
will.
Yeah. I feel good about it. Also because I'm not like taking it that seriously. I'm like, this would be just really fun, and I've got some I'm patient, so if it's 5 years down the road, I consider that a massive win.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I'll keep you posted on it.
Yeah,
see if
let
I
me
get
know.
the rock, and then you can come through and take some photos of the rock.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Cool, man. So 2 more questions. What one thing should people read, watch, or listen to before they go to bed tonight?
Read, watch, or listen to. Listen to this podcast now.
Yeah, they already are. Yeah,
I'm thinking on that.
maybe something that's kind of inspired you recently.
Inspired me. There's a documentary. I can't remember the name of it, but I think it might be called Streets. It's all about street photography. That would be the thing to watch.
It's
for
a good
sure.
one.
Yeah.
Do you know where it's at?
It's on Netflix.
Oh, it is. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might have to check that out myself. All right, check out that documentary. And last thing before we go, if people want to connect with you online, where do they go?
Either send me an email and I'll get to you eventually, or honestly, the easiest way is just DM me, because I try to go through those as much as possible. You can ask anybody. Like I definitely get back to everyone on there. Or just leave a comment on a photo. Really, I get back to everyone. You
Wow.
know, I try to, especially on my photos, if they take the time to comment and write something nice, I definitely get back to them. So
I think that's probably one of the good things about being so specific about the platform in which you decide to create on, where
Yeah.
you just have Instagram.
Right.
So if you're managing 5 accounts, it may be more
it'd be
challenging.
impossible.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool, man. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Right on. That's the show for today. I'm incredibly grateful to Cole. Please check out his Instagram account and send him some love via direct message there. I'm sure he will love it. The Ground Up Show is advertisement free. Why? Because Puff Daddy was wrong. It's not all about the Benjamins. It's all about standing up for what you believe in. When I wrote that, it didn't sound as corny as when I read it, but either way, I believe advertisements are lame, and what I want to do is promote an advertisement-free world. But in order to do that, I need some ratings. As you know, as I've mentioned on this podcast before, ratings help to boost the visibility of the show. It really gets the word out there, and it gets other people excited and interested in pressing play on that first episode. So head over to iTunes, leave a quick rating or review for me. Your support means so much. Let's see, what else do I got here? Oh, and how about a final reminder? If you want your question answered on this show, then record that video, send it to hello@mattdivella.com, and then my guest and I will help you get to the bottom of your problems. That's it. Thanks for being a part of my journey.